Good afternoon, and welcome to the Pennsylvania Coalition Against Domestic Violence ceremony, PA Says No More, which honors Pennsylvania victims who died due to domestic violence over the past year. I'm Peg Durkers. I have the honor of serving as the Executive Director of the Pennsylvania Coalition Against Domestic Violence. October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month across the nation and across our Commonwealth. In fact, the Senate very graciously, officially and formally declared it Domestic Violence Awareness Month. We want to thank Senator Washington for that. Today's program is one of literally hundreds of community events commemorating Pennsylvania's domestic violence victims and survivors. We encourage all of you watching the ceremony to say no more to domestic violence by attending a community event. For a list of events, you can check out our website, pcadv.org. Before we start, I'd like to invite Stephanie Garman-Maurer to lead us in a moment of silence in memory of the victims we honor today. Stephanie most recently spent 20 years working for the Commonwealth, last at 8 years as the Deputy Auditor General, conducting performance audits under Auditor General Jack Wagner. She also has served for 4 years on the Board of Directors for the Coalition. But most importantly today, Stephanie is a survivor, literally and figuratively. Stephanie's daughter, Kirsten, was murdered by her husband on January 23, 2008. Kirsten was 27. Since her daughter's death, Stephanie has become an eloquent voice for survivors. Her 2 sons, Thomas and Seth, often accompany her to speaking engagements. For more information about Kirsten, you can visit inmemoryofkirsten.com. Stephanie?
Thank you. It's hard in here with the acoustics, but let's just take a few seconds to reflect and observe silence for all victims of domestic violence. Thank you. In January, it will be 7 years since my daughter Kirsten, at age 27, was murdered by her husband in a horrific act of domestic violence. I know Lynn Shiner is also here today, and in December it will be 20 years that she lost her 2 children, 10-year-old Jen and 8-year-old Dave, in equally unspeakable acts of domestic violence by their father. You can look at Lynn and me now, and we seem whole. I mean, years later, here we are seemingly in one piece. We can put one foot in front of the other. We can speak about what happened, and in Lynn's case, even write a book about it. What you don't see is that we feel as though vital parts of our bodies have been hacked off, or that our hearts are torn out. Believe me, no matter how we may appear to you, we are not whole without our children, and we feel their loss every single day. Those of you who have lost someone to domestic violence know exactly what I'm saying. Governor Corbett, Mrs. Corbett, your continued support and your presence today mean the world to us, to other victims and survivors, and to all who are affected. Members of the General Assembly, thank you for your support and your presence as well. Awareness and, yes, program funding will help keep other Kirstens and other Jens and Daves alive. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie. Before I introduce our next guest, Governor Corbett, I'd like to thank several people for making this program possible. They are first and foremost our 60 domestic violence centers across the Commonwealth who provide help to more than 85,000 Pennsylvanians each year. 15 of those centers are represented here today. They are identifiable by the No More t-shirts they are wearing. During today's ceremony, our program representatives will be assembling a jigsaw puzzle, the pieces of which contain the names of victims we will be honoring today. The victim names won't always correspond with their home county. We did this on purpose. We did this on purpose to underscore a central message of today. Domestic violence is not an issue in only one family or one community or one county or even one state in the nation. It is an issue for each and everyone, and each loss of life is a tragedy for all of us. With us today, of course, also is Mrs. Corbett, who has served recently as a champion for economic justice for victims of domestic violence. The Pennsylvania Coalition Against Rape, Diane Moyer, our partner in sponsoring Pennsylvania's No More campaign, which fights against domestic violence and sexual assault. We launched this public awareness campaign just over a year ago, and we are encouraged by the positive response we have received thus far, especially from men, who in the wake of the NFL Ray Rice scandal are speaking up more forcefully against domestic violence and sexual assault. For more information on the No More campaign, you can visit pasaysnomore.com. Also with us is the Pennsylvania Commission on Crime and Delinquency Executive Director Linda Rosenberg, Director of Victim Services Lynn Shiner, and in the audience, the Department of Health, Malia Balonis, and the Department of Public Welfare, Angie Logan, all important partners as we work together to combat this scourge. And last but hardly least are the members of the Pennsylvania General Assembly. There are 19 representatives and senators here today who have graciously agreed to lend their time and their name to help raise public awareness and honor the victims of domestic violence. Today, they will read the names of domestic violence victims from their home district as well as from other communities. For our audience's convenience, each legislator will be wearing a No More 0 on his or her lapel. Participating in today's victim roll call are Senator Chuck McElhaney from Bucks County, Representative Cheryl Delosier and Senator Pat Vance from Cumberland County, from Dauphin County, Senator Rob Teplitz, Representative Sid Michaels Kavulich, Representative Joe Hackett from Delaware, Senator Mike Fulmer and Representative Schwanger from Lebanon County, Representative Mike Schlossberg and Representative Daniel McNeil from Lehigh County, Senator Bob Mensch, Senator Stuart Greenleaf, Representative Todd Stevens, Representative Marcy Topol from Montgomery County, Representative Mike Reagan, Senator Scott Wagner, and Representative Keith Gillespie from York, Representative Michelle Brownlee, Representative Brendan Boyle, Representative James Roebuck, Representative Maria Donatucci, and Senator Vincent Hughes from Philadelphia, Representative Margot Davidson from Delaware County, and Representative Becky Corbin from Chester County. The roll call will begin momentarily, but first I'd like to share with you just a few thoughts and realities about domestic violence. While it's true that the number of domestic violence homicides has nationally been trending downward for the past 2 decades, it is also true that domestic violence remains at epidemic levels in the United States. as well as in Pennsylvania. 1 in 4 women and 1 in 7 men will experience domestic violence or sexual assault in their lifetime. Each year in the United States, 1,300 people die and 2 million are injured due to domestic violence. Nearly 2.2 million people call the state or national hotline. More than 1.3 million people reach out for domestic violence services. Here in Pennsylvania, more than 85,000 citizens contacted our community domestic violence programs last year, seeking such services as housing, counseling, transportation, legal services, and childcare. Tragically, there were some who did not escape. 158 Pennsylvanians died due to domestic violence last year, a 10% increase over the previous year. Among the dead were 107 victims and 51 perpetrators. 63 victims were shot, 24 stabbed, 6 beaten, 4 strangled, and 2 burned. Victims ranged from the ages of 2 to 91. It is not hyperbole to say that the death toll would have been much higher were it not for the hard work, passion, and compassion of the hundreds of Pennsylvanians who work and volunteer in our 60 community programs. They are the glue that has held domestic violence services together during these difficult economic times. State and federal funding had been essentially flat for the past decade due to budget deficits, sequestration, and the greatest economic downturn since the Great Depression. Because of these budget constraints, PCADV and its member programs were forced to reduce staff and services, unable to fulfill every request for assistance. In fact, in each of the past 2 years, approximately 5,000 people courageously came forward for help to flee their violence, but unfortunately, we could not. The capacity of services was just not there. Finally, last year in this, there was good news on the budget front. PCADV received a significant increase from the state to pay for domestic violence services. That's a positive for every community in the Commonwealth, from Ardmore to Zelienople. It means more help for Pennsylvanian families in distress, especially those in rural areas seeking legal assistance. This budget increase would not have happened were it not for the leadership of Governor Corbett. He announced an increase for domestic violence services in his preliminary budget in February, and he and legislative leaders fought to make sure the additional funds were in the final budget he signed in July. To be sure, many members of the General Assembly supported increased funding for domestic violence services, and some of them are with us here today. We thank all of them for their contribution to our work. Governor Corbett's unwavering support made a critical difference. So thank you, Governor Corbett, for supporting us then and now. The podium is yours.
Thank you, Peg, and thank all of you, and particularly the legislators. They're here today, they're joining with us today. And I want to thank the legislators because while I proposed the budget, they passed the budget. And understanding the need that we increase our funding to the survivors of domestic violence. I have been working at this for 38 years, since I became an assistant district attorney back in 1976. And we can remember back, I'll call those the dark days of individuals coming into magistrates' offices wearing sunglasses when it was snowing outside. And you knew right away as a young assistant district attorney that these individuals were the subjects of domestic violence. the ones who were lucky, the ones who survived, and how far we all have come in the criminal justice field, in the courts, but particularly with the work of your agency and PCAR in bringing this to the attention of the people, not just of Pennsylvania, but of the United States. As you indicated, the puzzle that we are putting together here is truly a symbol of the complexity and the difficulty that we as a society face in truly looking at and confronting and admitting that there is domestic violence. Since PCADV began its important work back in 1976, you've assisted 2.8 million people. 2.8 million. You provided housing, child care, legal assistance, and counseling in all 67 counties of this great Commonwealth. There is one statistic, though, that stands out, a number that made my commitment to increase funding all that more urgent: 2,424. Let me repeat that number, 2,424. What's that number? That's how many people came to PCADV for help in just one day in 2013. The need for these services is absolutely clear. This is not a funding issue. It's a moral obligation. No woman, no man, no child fleeing domestic violence should ever be turned away. The right to live in safety, to live in dignity, and to be free from fear is not subject to compromise. That's why I have always fully supported the work of PCADV and all of its partners. That's why I will always be committed to making sure that people in need come first. That's why we all hope and pray that come next year at this time, that the roll call of victims will be much shorter, and that the survivors of domestic violence will know that we can support them when they reach out to us for help. Together, we can say no more. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Governor. The Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, unlike some states, does not keep a separate list of domestic violence fatalities. So the names you hear today were victims who died during the time period from October 2013 to October 1st, 2014, that PCADV was able to identify through both public accounts and police reports. The names will be read in alphabetical order according to county. So let's begin. Senator McElhaney, will you begin the roll call?
Orlando Brawner. Karen Yambalis. Derek Fry. Amy Gorsuch. Jessica Mellinger.
Mary Tolbert. Mark Hoy. Aaron Hoy. Dawn Marie Wagner. Melissa Joseph.
Heather Marie Bechtel. Jonathan Freisinger. James Harpst. Yvette Morrison. Mariah J. Anderson.
Kathleen Kavanaugh Tallarico. Silas Nelson. Mickey Lipashek. James Payne.
Milagros Lopez, Luke Schlemmer, Daniel Schlemmer, Teresa Smith, Douglas C. Weingartner.
Atub McCool, Wilson Mayhas, Nancy Whiteside, Catherine Willett.
Alexis Nagaris Torres, Dana Wilson Miller, Lindsay Wolf, Denise Wilkinson, John Webster.
Jack St. Angu, Christina Balahonas, Masiko Griffin, Harry McCabe, Louise Wise Edmonds.
Deborah Harrison, Linda Rooney, Sion Stiles, Deanna Winklevoss.
Darrell Baker, Mary Burrows, Leah Fields, Thomas Olson.
Billy Joe Bratton, Jeffrey Evans, Ronald Evans, Dorothy Koreni.
Lionel Perez, Antonio Rivera, Elijah Rosado, Anthony Palmieri, Lloyd Bud Schultz.
Michelle Nelson, Maria C. Peralta, Lawrence Quinn, Karen Louise Harcum.
Atlanta Devaney, Darren Drake, Nikisha Eugene, Arthur Figueredo.
Ronald Fishman, Amy Gerard, Monet Hall, John Mapp.
Patrice McIntosh, Constance Connie Murray, Aubrina Kovacic, and Caressa Kowalczyk.
Holly George, Anita Sable, Shirley Westhaver, Cameron Schultz, Michelle Wosiak, Edward Joseph White Jr., Richard Bodine Jr.
Carrie Staley, Lynn Wright, Eric W. Williams, Richard Parker, Theda Myant, Lauren Williams, Caitlin Francis, and Patricia Thompson Lay.
Thank you, members of the General Assembly, for participating today. We have one final order of business. As you can see, the jigsaw puzzle containing the names of our victims who have died, when completed, will illustrate our No More symbol across Pennsylvania. To us, it is a powerful symbol and a powerful public declaration that we are standing up to say no more to domestic violence and sexual assault in our communities. Governor and Mrs. Corbett, would you please do us the honor of completing the puzzle? Thank you. And thank you to all of you, men, women, young and old, rich and poor, of all racial, ethnic, and religious backgrounds, you who are standing up in your communities to say no more to domestic violence and sexual assault. We can end these twin scourges for the next generation, but only if each of us does our part to help. Tomorrow, the lights of the Capitol turn purple. Let all who enter here do what is within our ability to do, to pass the laws before us that protect, to dig deep to tell the truth of each story, to work tirelessly to fund and to deliver quality services that matter, and to actively reach out to those in need so that they can escape. If we each do what we can in this way, 1 October, there will be no names to read. Thank you and have a good afternoon.